2 years ago, if you would have told me that I would not only be meditating consistently, but also preaching meditation on a YouTube video like this, I would have thought that you would be lying. Honestly, at that time, I didn't think that meditation would yield any real benefit to my life. And I thought it was some weird, scammy, spiritual BS that weird people do on the mountains. What I didn't know at the time was that meditation was one of the best self-improvement habits that you can do, and it is extremely applicable in your real life. I'm not going to waste your time in this video. This video is a full-length guide on how to meditate, but if you want the TLDR of all of this, meditation simply involves you sitting down or laying down a few minutes a day and concentrating on an internal stimulus or an external stimulus, which will reap so many benefits in your day-to-day life that you can't even imagine. All of that will be explained in this video. The benefits of meditation, why it's absolutely crucial that you meditate in this day and age. Again, I'm not going to waste your time in this video. This video is extremely actionable and step by step. All meditation is it grounds you in the present moment, so you have an increased awareness of the feelings around you. This causes a reduction in those random thoughts that don't really have any benefit to the task you have at hand. And this not only improves your focus, productivity and relationships, but also improves your happiness as a whole. For example, like me, I wrote my GCSEs around 3 months ago, and I was doing English language practice papers. And whenever I would sit down to do practice papers, I would get random thoughts that really had no benefit to the task I had at hand. For example, what I was having for lunch, or what the latest football game was. This didn't really have any benefits to the English language paper I had at hand, but my brain just sort of generated these thoughts. What meditation does is it reduces these random thoughts you have, so you're more focused and you're more present in the moment. Another example is if I'm talking to someone and my brain randomly generates a thought that my teeth aren't clean or my hair isn't done up, and this doesn't really have any benefit to the conversation at hand. It just makes my focus diverted to someplace else. So the sciencey explanation of what meditation actually does is it reduces the time you spend indulging in these random thoughts, and it basically keeps you grounded in the present moment. What this means is that when you start meditating, your focus will rocket up, your presence will boost, and your anxiety will lower, and you'll have a large decrease in the amount of feelings of stress and anxiety you have in a day. And also it boosts your critical thinking. Not only that, if you have a consistent meditating practice, your addictions to anything are more likely to be reduced. For example, if you have an addiction to junk food, you're way less likely to consume that junk food if you just start meditating every day. Meditation has also been proven to reduce trauma in individuals. This being said, every single successful athlete or celebrity you can think of has a consistent meditating practice. People like LeBron James, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Ronaldo, Messi, all of them have a consistent meditating practice that they themselves say has had a massive benefit to their day-to-day lives. So if meditation has such a big impact on the people we look up to day to day in society, it surely will have a benefit on your life. Section 2. The neurology and the biology of meditation. This section covers all of the sciencey stuff to do with meditation, and it really goes deep into what actually happens in your brain. This isn't really a crucial part in understanding or doing the benefits of meditation. This is just a section in the video where you can watch if you're interested, and feel free to skip over this section if you just want to see how to do meditation in your day-to-day lives. So in your brain you have a collection of different areas that are active when you aren't really focused on one particular thing. This area is called the default mode network. So the default mode network generates thoughts that are irrelevant to the topic in hand, or these mind-wandering thoughts I talked about earlier in the video are caused by this collection of areas called the default mode network. And what scientists have found is that a person is at their most optimal and happiest state as a person when they're not using their default mode network and they're totally present in the moment. For example, a study conducted in 2010 called A Wandering Mind is an Unhappy Mind concluded exactly what the title suggests, that subjects that had thoughts other than the task at hand or the moment they were in, even if these thoughts were pleasant, were reportedly way less happy than the people that were completely present and grounded in that particular moment. This concept may be hard to get your head around, but if you're eating a bowl of food, for example, if you take time to experience the richness and the flavor of the food, rather than, let's say, think about a stressful day at work, you're much more happier in the moment and much more fulfilled and more optimal as a person than if you're thinking about anything else. Now, what meditation does is it significantly decreases the amount of activity happening in this default mode network, and it increases the amount of activity in the ACC, insula, and the left prefrontal cortex. And all of these three parts of the brain control your self-awareness and your critical thinking and your focus in any individual. Therefore, the TLDR of all of this section is basically that meditation decreases the amount of thoughts you have that are unrelated to the topic at hand, and therefore decreases the amount of activity in the default mode network, and it increases the amount of activity in the ACC, the insula, and the left prefrontal cortex, which regulates and increases your self-awareness, your presence, and your critical thinking, which are all traits that you really need to be the most productive and happy. Hopefully now I've convinced you exactly why you should meditate and how it's a benefit to everyone that does it and everyone that has a constant meditative practice, and that there's really no downside to meditation and your life just increases if you do it. This brings me on to my next section of the video, which is exactly how you should meditate. To cut to the meat of this, there are mainly two ways of meditating. There is interoceptive meditation and there is exteroceptive meditation. Now, both of these meditation practices have different purposes. Interoceptive meditation is the sort of meditation that trains yourself to concentrate on your internal bodily sensations, such as your breath. For example, if you find yourself getting easily stressed out in a crowded room of people, interoceptive meditation helps you regulate this stress and anxiety by making you more grounded and more focused on your breath. And if you solely do interoceptive meditation, your regulation of your internal bodily sensations will improve massively. On the other hand, exteroceptive meditation helps you concentrate on an external stimulus and helps you disassociate from your internal bodily sensations. For example, if you're public speaking and you feel like your bodily sensations are out of control or you're having too many, you can focus your attention on an exteroceptive stimuli, and this will help you disassociate yourself from your emotions and think more critically and have a more logical and critical narrative of the situation rather than a more emotional one. Now, each person is somewhere on this spectrum of either more interoceptively inclined or exteroceptively inclined, and I don't really get the differences of how you test for if you're more interoceptively inclined or exteroceptively inclined. The way I like to do it is train both of them. So one day I'll do an interoceptive meditative practice and the other day I'll do an exteroceptive meditative practice. And I really find this useful because it improves both sides of the weighing scale. So you're going up in both ladders. So this brings me on to the real meat of the video. How exactly do you meditate? Well, it's not as hard as it seems. When doing your meditative practice, all you need to do is sit down or lay down somewhere. Preferably somewhere silent and where there's not that much noise around you, but you can do it in a crowded room. Then set a timer on your phone. If you've never meditated before, I would recommend setting a 1-minute timer on your phone. You then eventually build up the amount of time you can meditate, but I also started with 1 minute of meditation, and I recommend this to you as well. Then if you're doing an interoceptive meditative practice, you should close your eyes and focus on your breath. On the other hand, if you're doing an exteroceptive meditative practice, you should focus on a singular point in the distance. For example, a point on the wall or something. Of course, you're allowed to blink during this meditation practice, and be warned that your vision will seem to decline in your meditation practice. This is completely normal. It will get back to normal after you finish your meditation session. Now let's call the singular point, for example your breath or the single point on the wall, the POF, the point of focus, where you focus on in this meditation practice. Now for the rest of the meditation session, all you do is every time you find yourself deep in thought, for example if you're focusing on your POF, like the singular point on the wall, and you find yourself thinking about your lunch, you should just realign your focus to the singular point on the wall, and then just do this consistent realigning until the timer rings and the meditation practice is over. Now, a mistake that many beginners make when they start meditating is that every time they find themselves deep in thought, they get really disheartened. But that's the point. Every time that you realign your focus, the neuroplasticity in your brain changes and you develop new neural pathways wherein you can focus more on your POF. Think of every time you realign yourself on your POF as a rep in the gym. You may feel disheartened that your muscles are getting weaker in the moment, but in the long term, this is actually building your focus and increasing all of the benefits that meditation brings. I think Andrew Huberman explains this in the best way in his video on meditation.
One of the key elements of any meditative practice, whether or not it's interoceptively focused or exteroceptively focused, is that it's really a refocusing practice. The more number of times that you have to yank yourself back into attending or perceiving one specific thing. In other words, the more times your mind wanders and you bring it back, actually the more effective that practice is. Again, if you can just focus on one location with laser precision and your mind never darts away from that and you don't have to bring it back, well, then there's no neuroplasticity. Nothing needs to change because your nervous system will effectively know it's performing perfectly. So if you're somebody who tries to do meditation, you find that your mind just wanders, just remember every time you scruff yourself and pull yourself back to focusing on some location externally or focus back on your breath or your third eye center, each one of those are just opportunities to do better. They are essential to the improvement process. Think about them as ascending a staircase of refocusing. Every time you refocus, you're going up one more level, another stair, another stair, another stair. And I think that will move you away from the kind of judgmental process of thinking, oh, like I can't focus on anything.
Now, before I move on to the next section, here are some things you need to know before starting meditation. Number one, when your inhales are longer or more vigorous than your exhales, you tend to be more alert than you were before the meditation session. Number two, on the other hand, if your exhales are more vigorous or more longer than your inhales, you tend to leave the meditation session with a more calm presence than you started. Number three, if your exhales and your inhales are the same level of vigorousness and the same length, you tend to be as calm and as alert as you started the meditation practice. So just keep this in mind when you meditate. Now, hopefully I've told you all of the benefits that I know of and that I've researched on meditation and exactly how you should do it. And this is just a small bonus section on how exactly I integrate meditation within my lifestyle. Now, the two main ways I stay consistent with meditation is A, through a daily habit tracker, and B, through changing my identity. Basically, a habit tracker is something that I use to check off all of the habits that I want to do a day. I think somewhere I read that it takes 30 days for you to develop a habit. So to keep consistent, I have a list of the days that go along and the amount of habits that I need to do each day, and I check them off each morning that I do them. For example, if I wanted to do YouTube work every single day, I would put it on the habit tracker and I would check it off whenever I did it. This just increases the likelihood of you doing your habits. On the other hand, changing your identity is quite simple but very, very powerful. If you want to read more about this, read Psycho-Cybernetics by Max Wellmont, I think his name is, and this really goes into why you can't outgrow your identity and how you can change your identity. Also read a book named Atomic Habits by James Clear. Basically what this means is you perform in the way you see yourselves. For example, if you're just seeing yourself as someone who's trying meditation, you're much less likely to build a consistent meditation practice than if you see yourself as someone who meditates. Now, I've said everything I could on meditation, and the last thing I just want to say is that avoid doing meditation before you go to bed, because studies have proven that it kind of reduces your quality of sleep. So just be wary on doing meditation just before you go to bed. But any other time in the day should be fine. I like to do my meditative practice right in the morning as soon as I get up. Hopefully now you know everything that I know about meditation and exactly how you should do it. And I wish you the best on your journey on this meditation practice, and I hope for all of the good things about meditation to benefit all parts of your life. If you like this video, please click the like button down below, and if you want to see these types of videos in the future, consider subscribing.